And we're back. As you can see, I have upgraded from the PBR into a home-brewed blonde ale. So here, I'll show that off. Oh, look how clear. Although the condensation doesn't help. It's clear, I swear. We've had our 155 degree steep. This is the current color of what we're looking at. It looks a lot darker than it actually will be in reality. We're going to give that a stir a little bit, and I have my heat on. Maybe bringing this up to a boil. But while I do that, I'm going to add my malt extract. So this is the light dry malt extract. It's kind of terrible to work with in some ways because it clumps up, and you really have to stir it well for it to dissolve. So you can see there are just clumps of this stuff flying around. It will dissolve. It just takes a little bit of time. So you just stir it a bunch. Stir it as best you can. It doesn't help adding the entire volume in that time. You're basically just adding sugar to this. And you can see it definitely changes the color, that light extract. See, their chunks are gone. We're left with just what is essentially super, super sugar water. It's very cloudy. It's not as clear as it was before. But that's because we're getting actual significant quantities of malt in there as opposed to what we had before, which was really just the color steeping out from the grain. So our light is in there. And I'll leave that for a second and move on to our amber after I take a sip, because you know what? Why not? That's quite tasty. All right, now this is the Breeze Sparkling Amber malt. You can see this is foamed over. That's something that beer does in general. Creates this really foamy. The malt and the starch from the malt kind of creates this coating on the top. You see again we're chunking up here, but as we stir, it'll dissolve. And what that foam actually does is it will form this barrier on the top, and that barrier itself will eventually the boil will start underneath and break through the barrier. I've shown that in one of my other videos. We call it the hot break. It's where the foam itself is from the sugars, it's from the starch, it's from the proteins in the grain. It just kind of forms this really dense barrier against the liquid. So the boil will actually start underneath and break through, which we'll hopefully get to. It's gonna take a little bit of time, so I probably will stop this video again just to show you as we're getting closer to the boil, because that's going to be the part where we actually add the hops and do anything really other than stir, because who wants to watch 20 minutes of somebody stirring while something comes to a boil? But what we will do, we will take our temperature, see where we're at. Actually rinsed off my, yes, I didn't drink all those, I swear. That's from last night. Last night I had 2 beers, oh no! Take my temperature probe off. I had rinsed it off because it was all sticky. So we'll turn that on and see where we're at for temperature. Alright, let's see here. 119, 148, 163, 170, 174. Alright, so we're looking pretty good. You can probably hear it in the background. 180 degrees technically is boiling, but it is not the kind of boiling we're looking for. The real boil, rolling boil, I don't really know the word that you're supposed to use there, is 212 degrees. So that's the temperature we're really looking at. So I actually am going to leave this thermometer in there so we can monitor it for a little bit. Now the temperature's going down. I must have been holding it against the side of the pot. So we're looking for 212 degrees. Once it reaches 200 or 205 or something like that, I'm going to let it go. But for the most part, once you put your malt extract in, you can kind of let it go. You want to stir it in. You make sure there are no clumps. But for the most part, you can let it go, and we can start cleaning up at least a little bit here. I'll probably go put my hops down in the basement so they stay cold because they're supposed to. But while this is heating up, let me give it a quick stir here. One of the things that you want to do is you want to stir it every once in a while because you don't want that malt extract to burn against the bottom of the pot. This is a pretty thick bottomed pot, so it should be okay, but just to be safe, you really don't want that to happen. So I always make sure to stir it at least a little bit when I'm working with extract. Every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes, something like that, just to make sure you don't scorch. So let's come over here real quick to the fridge, and this is my brewer's yeast. You want to keep it refrigerated. This particular brew uses this stuff right here, Safale US05 by Fermentis. It's a pretty standard ale yeast. I use it in most of my IPAs. I also use it in a lot of pale ales, and I've used it, like I said, I use it in the cider, obviously. It's a very clean yeast. It benefits some of the more citrusy flavors, which is why I like to use it, because I prefer citrusy hops, and that's the same thing that we're going to be doing with this particular cider. I'll throw out another note real quick. A lot of people will brew cider with a champagne yeast. I don't recommend doing it for a couple reasons. Champagne yeast dries out cider very, very quickly. It creates this really dry, crisp effect that some people are going for, but if you want a real drinkable cider, something that you can have like in place of a beer, in place of another carbonated beverage, if you want a cider that you can have for that purpose, then you're better off going with something like an ale yeast, because it's going to be a lot more drinkable than it would be otherwise. So we're going to take a break here while this heats up. We're only at 190, so I'm not going to make you sit through. So when I go to add my hops, I'll take another video, and then we'll show the rest of the process as we get to adding the apple juice. So go have a beer or eat something. That's what I'm going to do. Okay, see ya.